But my name is Wayne Dupree. As Tanya introduced me as News Ninja, you know, sometimes when I hear that, I laugh to myself. Because it's funny, I mean, it's not funny when I say it, because when I say it, I mean it. But when I hear other people say it, it lets me know that my message has gotten out there to where people refer to me as my mom. And it's cool. Somebody asked me a while back, they were like, well, how did you come up with News Ninja? Well, I was coming up, you know, people have nicknames, Lone Ranger and all that stuff and everything. I have children that was learning karate. Every movie in the house was ninja this, ninja that. They were even doing ninja stuff on me when I didn't want it. But when I start coming to my own and start pulling away from the computer, and when I started talking outside of the house, news has always been my passion. I've always watched news. I've always been in front of the news. I've watched how things happen. So the news part was easy. The ninja part, when I attached that, I created a tagline because some of the things that I had learned when I decided to leave the Democratic Party. My tagline was assassinating liberal lies with documented facts. News Ninja. Assassinating liberal lies with documented facts. Great, super. And it took off. Over the years, over the last couple of years, I've also learned that I have to go after moderate Republicans. People that we send to Congress that don't want to do what we ask them to do. So now it's just not on one side, it's on both sides. When I hear people say that both parties are the same, I react very quickly and swiftly. Both parties are not the same. Now, if you want to talk about the leaders, or as they call themselves leaders, they might be on the same page. You know, they love to bounce checks together in D.C. and you know, they like to get their little manicures and all these things paid by the American people. They're on the same page. But the grassroots, Republicans, Tea Party, Conservative, that's where the difference is. You still hold the values of America. You are not corrupted by the swamp. And that's what we need to send to D.C. We need to keep trying. You can't stop. You can't give up. You got to keep doing it. Some people have given up. Some people have said, I can't do it anymore. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to look. I was at the barbershop a couple of months ago. A young man was in the barbershop talking about, I talk to young people, and young people, I tell them that it doesn't matter what they vote for because the machine, I said, why would you tell young people that? Young people need to know that they have a place in our politics. In a few minutes, we're getting ready to bring on Niger and Dr. King to talk about Restore the Dream. Something that a program, not really a program, actually.
Not a government program.
Not a government program. But it's a mindset. It's a mindset. America has gotten away. You hear our leaders talk about, I'll march with King, so vote for me. Or I believe in everything that Dr. King says, but they don't practice it. Restore the Dream is bringing that back into the forefront. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bring y'all up right now. All right. Dr. Alveda King and Niger Innis. again, Restore the Dream. Last year, in October, I had the privilege and honor to travel with Dr. King and Niger, Innis, to North Carolina and Ferguson, Missouri. Missouri. And actually, to tell you the truth, I didn't know this until after we had left, that a couple days before we had got there, the place that we were speaking at, or the place where we were talking at, the mob had been through there. At that particular place, they had been through there, threatened the people that were in the tent, that were holding prayers for over 20 days, like you never saw on TV. Wow. And the mob had been through there trying to intimidate them, and it didn't work. And right after we left, a couple hours right after we left and pulled off, a couple blocks from where we were, somebody was shot at a store. A couple blocks from where we were. But God protected us when we went there. So, right now I'm going to let Niger tell his story. I'm going to let Dr. King tell her story, and then I'm going to have some questions, and then I'm going to ask you to give some questions to them. Okay? Actually, let's start off with Dr. King first.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll go with Niger.
Can you all stand up and give God the glory? I'm just going to raise my hands. Give God the glory. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Glory to God. Glory to God. Stand up. Just stay there for 1 second. Sing this with me real quick. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. Take it to the end. How great thou art. How great thou art. Now give God the glory. A really big hand clap. Thank you. I remain seated just saying because sometimes I'm talking with Ruth Rogers, Diane Rogers, the founder of Brimstone Services, and we traveled quite a bit in working with Restore the Dream, now 2015. It started out in 2014. It's going to be here in 2016. And Niger was inspired with that. He called me one day. He says, will you join me? I said, I'll be the spiritual advisor. We got to do a lot of praying. And Wayne can tell you, when we went to Ferguson, and we took our Restore the Dream 2014, now it's 15, finally it'll simply be Restore the Dream. But each of these years are so significant. 14, the tides were turned. The church can turn the tide. Prayer can turn the tides. So here we are in 2015. And now we're headed to 16. And so keeping our focus in these directions, we were in Ferguson with Restore the Dream. They called us over. We were able to go. Interestingly enough, and Niger just resisted, so we're going to let him resist it, Reverend Niger. We just don't let you resist that. But he's invited to mentor young men. He spoke at a church, mentoring young men. Wayne was able to speak with Niger and me at a tent meeting in Ferguson. The tent had been up 21 days. And Michael Brown's uncle was there with us. Great. So it's almost like a tale of two cities.
Whites and blacks together now.
Oh, whites, black, various denominations, various ages. It was amazing. And Jonathan Tremaine Thomas told us when they first got there with all the hostility, the reactionaries were fighting and the people wanted to be angry. But they just kept praying, kept going back. And some of the protesters started coming to the tent. It was amazing. And on the last day of the tent, there was a festival that the whole community was afraid was going to be canceled because of all the violence. But the tent meeting and the people of the community and these various churches of every ethnicity and denomination came together and the festival went forward. So that was the kind of thing that we encountered in Ferguson. We've been in talks all the way back to the Trayvon Martin situation, Sanford, Florida, moving forth to Staten Island, New York. And we're in communications now And it shows you how things become connected. There's a Sergeant Mullins in New York, and he was on national TV, said he'd like to speak to Alveda King and Dr. Ben Carson and etc. Niger and his father, standing relationship with Officer Mullins. Anybody ever heard of Officer Friendly? Raise your hand if you have. Came out around 1960s when some of us were little kids, young, and it's still in the public domain. Officer Friendly would go to the schools and visit, and etc. So we need to, you're going to see some more of that in 2015. Niger is going to share some serious statistics and things like that, but it has been confirmed and reconfirmed. Tell you how brilliant this thing is. We were talking, and we said, is this racism or is this economic issues with African Americans simply being the low-hanging fruit? With the targeting not of ethnicity, but police officers told you have to write X amount of tickets, you have to make X amount of arrests, or you're not going to be paid. That's economic.
It's big government.
Amen. And he's an expert on that. And I'm very aware of a lot of it too. And we know now that equal opportunity is not enough. You have to have equal access. And these are things that are going to be discussed. I thought it was fascinating, and I want to give God the glory and a hand clap on this. 25 valiant Tea Party members in the United States Congress sent a message to Mr. Boehner. I thought that was fabulous. And that was powerful. And getting ready to get over here, working with Tanya and all of that, and now meeting all of you, I say we need to be encouraged in 2015. Certainly not worshiping being a conservative, certainly not worshiping the Tea Party, certainly not fighting with the Republican Party, but coming together and getting a job done. I wrote an article, can't even remember which year I wrote it in, but I re-released it in probably 2010. And it was the church can turn the tide. And then we said the tide is turning. So if we can keep our focus there, and you could just say, Alveda King, you know, the church can turn the tide, you can probably find it at some point. I do have a few copies of my book today. Has anyone read King Rules? Raise your hand if you at least heard about it if you've not read it. Okay. We have just a few, and we'll have it at the table. I'll be happy to see you. Diana, Ruth, raise your hands because they're going to be over at the table in a little while. I do travel with two blondes, and we get in a lot of trouble.
I know this is a fact. I've been traveling with them.
Especially since the younger one is single. Oh, Lord. That's not exactly an advertisement. But God help us. God help us. But anyway, that's my introduction. I want to thank God for you. And the values, the things that, the ties that bind us together. Let's remember them. It's certainly way true, turning the tides. It's really real. So we're glad to join you, and we thank God for it. We're going to leave some time for questions, so let Niger give you some of this real serious information.
Thank you, Alveda, and it's a blessing to be a partner. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes. You sure? Are you sure? Usually it's very... Okay, yeah, just in case. First of all, I want to thank Tanya. I want to thank Tanya Tiffany for putting this together. Wayne, thank you so much for getting us involved in this and leading this effort. You know, I'm actually going to go a little bit off script. I want to ask y'all, please raise your hand and speak out. I'm going to ask you a question. A few years from now will be 2019. Why does that matter?
Is that the year that Martin Luther King was
Raise your
born?
hand.
Is that the year that Martin Luther King was born?
No.
Okay.
No. The year 2019.
100 years.
Oh, 100th anniversary.
Yeah.
Is it 19?
No, I have to look at
That might be another reason to celebrate. But no.
I think it's 29, but anyway, go ahead.
that might be another reason, but that's not the reason I'm talking about. That's a good guess, though. Anybody else? 2019. What's that?
Year before the census.
Year before the census. That's important. Definitely, but that's not what I'm talking about.
I don't know the
It's
answer
a,
either.
well, this will help you out. It's a anniversary, actually. 4th-century anniversary.
Well, it was the.
When slavery.
4th century. That
That was when slavery was, when slaves were first brought to America.
when the first
Oh my God.
black person landed on what would be American soil.
Wow.
1619, folks. And I look at that date, and I say that that is a date for celebration. America is not even, you know, it's the most amazing thing to me. America is not a country, it's a dream. It's a dream. You know, of course, we got real issues with our commander-in-chief.
Oh, Lord.
Really serious issues. But it was a great day when he was elected in 2008. It was not a great day in 2012. But in 2008, it was a great day for historic reasons. But do you know what was even more profound? And that y'all are Tea Party. Y'all are conservatives, Republicans, mostly Republicans. And y'all don't know this. You know that Tim Scott got elected, of course.
Yeah.
Of course you know that. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. How many of you know that Tim Scott got more votes than the senior senator from South Carolina, Lindsey Graham? This for context, folks. South Carolina is the home of what? Fort Sumter? Right? The first state to go into the Confederacy? And in that state, Tim Scott got more votes than Lindsey Graham? Are you kidding me? This place is a miracle, folks. This country is a miracle. And we have the obligation to communicate that message. I wrote some things down, and I'm not going to take up too much time because I really want to hear back from y'all. You know, we haven't stopped being in the war on terror. Okay? We have an ebb and flow, but the war on terror has not stopped. It actually started before September 11th, 2001. We just got a wake-up call and realized, oh, we're in it on September 11th, 2001. And I'm from New York. My office was in the protected zone, Congress for Racial Equality. So that date is very, very important to me. But it wasn't the start of that war. The start of the war was before then. And it's ongoing. And now you're going to hear, because of the the horrific action and attack on our civilization that took place in the streets of Paris by Islamic extremist fundamentalism. But believe it or not, that's not the biggest crisis that Western civilization has. The biggest crisis, in my humble opinion, that Western civilization has is a question of assimilation and integration. And it is that weakness that our enemies, like the radical Islamic fundamentalists, like the secular, hate-filled, nihilist progressives, they maximize that for their own ends. You all have heard about the Algerian, North African, Arab, Frenchmen. These people were born in France. They are more Frenchmen than they are North Africans. They're North Africans in their blood, they're the great-grandparents or whatever, but they speak better French than they speak Arabic, or Berber, or whatever they speak in those countries their folk came from. And yet, because of the political correct cowardness that exists within Western civilization, in France, in Germany, and in the United States, that our enemies are allowed to maximize it in this war that we are engaged in. How long do you think before our enemies maximize the political segregation that exists within our country and not with Arab Americans? They actually are getting somewhat assimilated. But with folk that look like us, Black Americans, that have been here longer than a lot of your ancestors have been here. With the political segregation that the secular progressives are trying to push on Latinos. That is the war, folks, or at least it's a part of it. And until we realize that, until Republican politicians stop trying to hang out with the Sharptons, the Jessies, until corporate America stops giving out $300 million for diversity training, with Jesse Jackson as their consultant, and Rainbow Pusher, what's the other one he has?
National Action.
No, that's Sharpton, National Action, but Jesse has, is it Rainbow? Okay, yeah, Rainbow Push. All right, and Jesse, look, I'm going in here real quick. A few years ago, I bumped into Reverend Jackson the other day, and he was actually very, very kind and very humble, and I was shocked actually because I've been burning his butt for a long time. You'll know, you guys know, you've seen me, okay? I was actually taken aback by it. I'm actually close with his daughter, ironically, Santita, okay? And she's liberal, but she's civilized, wonderful lady, just terrific lady. And she embarrassed me a couple of times saying incredibly fond things about my father, Roy Innis, longtime chairman of CORE, on TV. Made me feel bad that I had said some nice things about her dad. But when I met him and I saw him, I told him the truth. I told him, Reverend, you know where I stand on these issues. But I have to tell you, I'm friends with your daughter. He says, I know, she told me. And I said, I have to tell you, for all I disagree with you on, I have to admit, I was inspired by your presidential run. I couldn't vote for you, and even if I was of age, I probably wouldn't have voted for you. But I was inspired by you, inspired by your campaign. I was inspired when you brought your children up to the podium at that 1984 convention. So, and here's where I'll end. You all know Robert Mugabe, the tyrant in Zimbabwe, been there for 30, 40 years. I heard a BBC report the other day, and it said, why doesn't Robert Mugabe retire? He's got to be filthy rich. He's got to be doing really well. And he said, because his cronies won't let him retire. There is an industry around Mugabe and his pillaging of the country of Mugabe. And he's the figurehead of that industry. So I want y'all to think about, and this doesn't go necessarily for my other brother, Reverend Al, but certainly for Reverend Jackson, who I saw, and I was like, I just don't believe he's wheeling and dealing like that anymore. I think there's people behind him, keeping him there to keep the industry going. But that industry is a part of the war on terror, folks. And we got to, when we see Republicans pissy-anny around with these types and that game, They have to know they're undermining our civilization. We have to know that when a corporation spends $300 million on some damn diversity training, a tech company, for diversity, when 40% of their workforce is minority. This is crazy. If I'm a radical Islamist, actually I would just sit back and watch us destroy each other. I'm sorry, folks.
And honestly, in a way, they have been sitting back watching. And they're playing on the weakness of those that are not happy with the way things are going. In Ferguson, there were signs of ISIS signs. I don't know who made it, whether they were just copycat. But when that is shown on TV, from state to state, country to country, you get an idea that ISIS has some type of footprint in what's going on in Ferguson. They had T-shirts with ISIS on it, the ISIS on it, even though our president said that that's not Islam. But Niger reminded us of Jesse Jackson's presidential run. I remember being, I think it was 10, 11 years old in Cambridge, Maryland, on Eastern Shore. And Jesse Jackson came to speak at the high school field, his high school football field. And man, it was like Jesus Christ himself had come to because, I mean, when you look at the State of the Union this year, if you happen to look at it, and you look at how Sheila Jackson Lee always runs to the side to give Obama a kiss and shake his hand every time, that's how everybody was doing Jesse Jackson back in the day. They looked on him as that figure, that person for them. The same way some are looking at Al Sharpton today.
And Obama.
And especially Obama. No matter what negatives that they had, no matter the results, the negative results they had, it's not wrong in the eyes of those that, quote, worship these people. That's why we look to Dr. King, Niger, Lloyd Marcus, Derek Wilburn, members of Restore the Dream. These American patriots are not afraid to say what they believe in, what type of solutions that they have. And they're not afraid to apologize if they're wrong, but then they're going to come right back around and say, well, let's try it this way. They're not going to keep on going down the wrong path with the wrong information, taking everybody with them. And again, I thank them for being here with me and Turn the Tides 2015. Dr. King, hope and change liberalism has failed. Many of the minorities today, many minorities, keep voting for the same party. They look at the media, they look at social media too, but I'm talking about the mainstream media. They get their information from here. And they have crafted in their mind that the other side, our side, that shows that we are successful in a way. I mean, we don't have to be rich to be successful. But they see the success, especially from us, and then they say, well, y'all are sellouts. Uncle Tom. They call the names to shut down the way that they can succeed. Why is it?
I'm going to answer that. There's something else I want to say. For me, it's kind of like an elephant in the room, but it's okay too. But economics, for instance, the big corporations give a Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton hundreds of thousands of dollars to do what they do. Restore the Dream right now. If honestly, if I ask somebody to give me $1,000 and 2 plane tickets and a hotel room, well, you're in this for the money. Now that's really, I have to say this, I really do have to go there. And so it actually takes prayer and integrity. Because either of us can tell you how many offers we get. Oh, we'll give you money. They don't even say come and speak for us, just shut up. But we don't shut up, but we do get tired. So, and this is the truth, this is the decision that was just made today. And I sent the email. I had an offer to go out and do some black and white talks this year. The backer was going to give me this, that, and the other. And I said, unfortunately, we're going to have to postpone that because I must do Restore the Dream. I hadn't even had a chance to tell you that. I just did that today. So, like he says, people like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, but Jesse and Al are different. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Because Jesse's probably just stuck. And he became that iconic thing and couldn't figure out how to get his foot out of his mouth. Now that's really what happened with Jesse. And the verdict is not in with Reverend Al. We just talked about. So then...
The evidence not looking good, though.
So, for Restore the Dream, for example, we're just going to do it. And we're not alone. There's not just one or two of us. How many? We have several African American conservatives that we work with on a very broad basis. We have to make the same decisions you did. How many of you, can you raise your hand if this is true, and I know it is? When you made the commitment to be the Tea Party and said we're not going to do it, we're not going to do establishment anymore, did anybody stop speaking to you? Raise your hand if it happened. You see? It does. But we have to. So the liberals were winning, but the tide is turning. How can we tell that? For instance, if you get a black Sheriff Clark, get on TV and say, okay, we don't want anybody dying unnecessarily. But we can look at what happened to Michael and Eric. Yes, but what about black on black crime? And if you're really saying that Black Lives Matter, hashtag Black Lives Matter, stop aborting all the black babies. And you're going to hear more about this. It's going to be real difficult. And my colleagues are saying, well, they're not going to invite you on Fox anymore once you send out that blog, but it's coming out. Homosexuality, we've been too mean about it. And in the meanness, we have to tell the truth. We have to shame the devil.
That's it.
God is not pleased. Gay marriage is not of the Lord. But when do we start hating people because they're trapped in that lifestyle? Now, the funniest thing that I've been able to say, I'll say, honey, I'm not going to even have an argument whether you were born that way or not. Jesus said some were born unique, some made unique, some choose to be. But honey, if you were born that way, be born again. What? All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So we are bold enough to take these types of approaches. We are not going to deny that racism exists in America. It does. And if anybody says it doesn't, I don't know anybody racist. A man came up and told me, I said, so you live on Z Street and you never go outside your house. Okay, I understand that. That's fine, sir. I'm sorry.
It's part of the human condition.
But Daddy had a favorite scripture. My daddy's young lady, King brother Martin Luther King Jr. And Daddy would say, Acts 17:26 says, of one blood, God made all people. So we're brothers and sisters.
Exactly.
That's right.
Uncle Innis said, we must learn to live together as brothers and we as sisters or perish as fools. Now, we've been having this discussion too, Diane, and I had it even as early as this morning with the Jewish community, the Arabs, the Christians, etc. Satire. This is still a free nation. I've been the barb of satirical cartoons. I think you all have too. And the ugliest cartoons, they say things. Well, we're not going to go and shoot anybody or kill somebody because we don't agree with the satire. We're just going to not be overcome by evil. We're going to overcome evil with good. You see, so we don't condone violence. But think about this. Abraham had 2 wives, Sarah and Hagar. Now, ladies, you're not going to like this. Gentlemen, ask the ladies to put all their purse under the table. Because ladies have invisible rocks in their pockets. And you can, okay? But here's Sarah, ladies. Here she goes. Let's help God out here, Abraham. Take my maid and marry her and have a baby. And then the way ladies are, we always gonna think we're more beautiful than the other lady and we're a little better. So they get into a fight. That was never God's plan. But Abraham loved his first son, Ishmael. And God says, well, I'm gonna bless your son and there's gonna be many nations. But there's gonna be a covenant with Abraham and Sarah. I have not changed my mind. So here you've got this fight between these women and these brothers all these years. Then we grafted in and become Abraham's children, Abraham's seed. So it's a sibling war. We need to tell that truth. And the hatred and fear will not resolve the conflict. It is the truth that is going to set people free. So we're going to have to tell the truth. We walked up here, I said, God, you going to make me sit in the left side of the chair? Why not you get to sit on the right? I really didn't think that when I came up. I'm human, my mind went there.
Entirely appropriate.
Woo!
Spiritual, political.
Woo! So we're human beings. The last point, honestly, the movie Selma, I advise everybody go see it. It's not historically accurate, it's Hollywood entertainment.
Particularly the Johnson.
Yeah,
Right?
it's really definitely on the Johnson part. And Martin Luther King was never in the Oval Office arguing with the president one-on-one. They went in a council. Meetings, all that. My daddy was on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, got beat up with him. Uncle Retta sent me the picture with them marching together. So it's not historically accurate, but for somebody who never heard any of it, it's a good place to start. So don't get into strife arguing about who's right and who's wrong. Just keep moving forward. The labels, liberal, conservative, Tea Party, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, I mean, on and on. Let's just get our eye on the prize and keep turning the tide.
And I was with Dr. Shield, Reverend Shield Bryant, a couple of months ago. Someone came up to me, another pastor in Las Vegas, and he was like, "You do know in the Bible when Jesus and his disciples were on the water and they were looking for fish, God said throw it on the right side." On the right side. And I laughed like he did on that one, and then he pulled another one. He said, "You know, when he was on the cross, he saved the one on the right side." My God. I think it's on the right side.
Was the thief on the cross on the right side or the left side? Look it up. All right.
But, you know what?
The right side.
But Mr. King, to us, you're on the right side of the right.
I'm sorry. It's all about perspective.
That's right.
Niger, so many people that I talk to, one thing that they bring up, actually there's 2 words, but it's strong, and it's common sense. Common sense. allows you to think and come up with informed decisions. And it's not being used in our community. Not only is that missing, but there is a lack of respect for parents, leadership, adults, and it's getting worse. It's not even close to getting better, it's getting very worse.
That's okay though, Wayne, because... Oh, yeah. Thank you. It's okay though, because the president's BFF, Jay-Z, he's going to help out that situation, isn't he? Right? I mean, the fact that Obama has him on Twitter, or what is it? It brings him into the Oval Office. Sure, the projection of him by the President of the United States as a role model, an unrepentant, and that's the operative word, unrepentant former drug dealer that killed his own people and was asked after he got out of the business and started to become an entrepreneur why he did what he did. He said, I was a pharmacist dealing with people's pain. That is your president's BFF. And you notice I said your president as opposed to mine because he's got more of your blood than you do mine. There's not one drop of slave blood in the president. That's a fact.
That's true.
That's a fact.
Explain it.
Okay.
And while he is explaining that, if a couple of you have any questions for Dr. King and Niger, please stand at the mic in the back. We have another 11 or 12 minutes left in this segment. But please explain.
Let me explain it. Yeah, okay, yes, thank you. Real quick, it's obvious. The president is African, okay? I don't mind the term African American. I don't mind that at all. The fact is, my ancestors, maybe 200 years, 300 years ago, were on the continent of Africa. That's all right, but I don't consider that accurate. I'm a black American. I'm an American. A white South African came to me once and said, hey, as he immigrated to the country, he said, I'm an African American. That's you, pal.
That's right.
Okay, real quick. That's why Obama is more human than me, okay? So, no, but in any case, hands up, don't shoot. Folks keep saying, hands up, don't shoot, Black Lives Matter. But what I say is pants up and don't loot.
And you know, one day on Twitter, real quick, and on Facebook, I put it on Facebook. I have two daughters, gifted and talented, straight A's. They're in the 6th grade right now. They're doing great. I don't teach them an act of surrender. I teach them respect for leadership. And that's where it starts. You don't teach your kids to surrender already. You teach them, if a policeman says, move out of the way, then you move out of the way. If a police ask you for your ID, yes sir, let me give you my ID. You ever did anything wrong, let me give you your ID.
I'm putting my hand in my pocket.
I'm putting my hand. Explain what you're doing and be respectful. So, Miss, you have a question?
Hello, my name is Christy, and I just want to say I'm so blessed having you guys here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for opening this. The way you opened this today was so wonderful. I live in Silver Spring. I'm not from this state. I'm from California, but my husband and I both served in the Navy. We're both Navy officers, retired, and we're happy to work, roll up the sleeves, and work hard for what we're trying to do, and wonderful candidates that we have wherever we live. But anyway, I have a funny thing to tell you that I do have a question. When I was 17, I boarded a bus with lots of kids to go to the National Youth Gathering for Lutheran kids in Kansas City, Missouri. This was in like 1979, and this was 25,000 kids from the whole nation. And Jesse Jackson was our guest speaker. Isn't that, what an amazing thing. I remember how excited we were to see him. But if you're talking about Niger, back in the day, I remember that. But my question to you, I still have my third child still in high school, but could you educate me? Is the NAACP still an effective organization? We always had a representative at our PTA meetings, and I'm wondering if some of the things that you've been sharing today, I'm starting to question, is that still an effective organization? If that's something we should support? And could you just let us know what you think about
My great-grandfather was one of the founders, Niger and his family, very active throughout the years. The national has been sold out by taking money and grants for Planned Parenthood, homosexuality, and all of that. But the local ones, our Atlanta chapter, I was there the other day, renewed my membership. Every year, for several years, we took a resolution to national, saying reduce the number of incarcerated blacks, reduce the number of abortions, give them viable options. We would pass it in Georgia every year, take it to national. One day I was standing right where the gentleman behind you is. I was next at the podium. They shut all the questions down, so I couldn't give the resolution at national. So there, across the land, there are NAACP leaders who still believe the Bible. So what you have to do, be not overcome by evil, overcome evil with good. I said, I'm going inside, because my great-granddaddy helped found this thing. I'm not giving it to them. So what you have to do is to talk to your local leaders, tell them where you stand. Any of the organizations that have been nationally taken over, work on the state level to take it back.
Thank you.
Can I, real quick, amen for what Dr. King said. And, I live in Nevada now. I've been there since 2008. I just got elected to the board. I just got elected to the board of the Nevada NAACP. So there is definitely, there are a bunch of conservatives.
I feel much better now, thank you.
Take it back. Become a member. Get involved. And we need to take it back.
Hi, my name's Louis, and I want to thank you too for being here today. And I'd like to take this opportunity to speak on a major concern of mine. I've been actively campaigning in Baltimore City. I tried to integrate with some of the churches up there. In the last two campaigns, one for Frank Mirabile, and then I ended up working in essence for Larry Hogan at the state here. Now, it's been my experience that the black churches up there have this concept that there is a lot of money out there that they can plug into in some kind of gift or donation. And I feel that the white community, and I'm going to speak as a white person, is being strained and drained of all their resources. You don't have to look at Detroit and Baltimore to see the problem. And I'm concerned. I would like to address this concept that we look at this as a hands up help to the people, as opposed to a hand out.
Teach them how to fish.
Pardon me?
Teach them how to fish.
Teach them how to fish. And I'd like to see an integration between the white community and the black community for that very function. So I'm saying thank you. I want to address this. I'd like to address this. I'd like to promote that concept, and I'd like your help in promoting that concept.
Visit RestoreTheDream2015.com. Some of our top advisors, Bishop Harry Jackson, there are several in various ethnicities and denominations, Judeo-Christian even. So we are working with ministers, leaders across the board.
Thank you very much.
Next.
My name is Anthony. My question is very simple. What can we do to restore the integrity of the leaders of the black urban church so that they do follow the dream and follow the precepts of Martin Luther King?
There's a, and I'm not a church expert, so correct me if I'm wrong, if I go astray. There's a difference between political black churches and real black churches that do real work, that have real congregants, that got real brick and mortar and service the community. There's a difference. What you're talking about mostly are the political black churches, which often follow an individual. The churches where that individual just is walking down the street, or actually in front of a TV camera. So there's a distinction between the two. What we have to do, though, is we have to communicate more to the real black churches that they got to get engaged in the political arena too.
Hi, I'd like to say thank you for the panel for being here today. I know Wayne and Dr. King would never hold their tongue. I know Niger, I know you hold back a lot of times, and I know you rarely speak about politics and stuff like that. But, my question is, I heard somebody on talk radio a couple days ago talk about like going to a picnic or going to some event, and he was the only conservative there, and he was afraid to speak. And he said there's certain times that he felt like he should not speak, that he should not say what he believes in. Immediately after that, one of my friends, good friend of mine, called in and she says, no, we have to engage ourselves whenever there is a talk about politics and not be afraid to speak up. I'm wondering if you guys have any input, like, can you tell us how not, I mean, you know, I don't think anybody in this room is afraid to speak up, but how to get that message out to others that when you are at a family gathering, when you are at your church, especially, and that's I guess where I'm focusing, when you're at your church, when you're at your PTA, when you're at your communities, how to get our voices out so we can be heard above the din of the others.
We say we've got 1 minute.
Yeah, but yeah, I was going to say maybe have the lady behind.
Let's have your question too, we'll answer them together. Give us your question too.
Okay. My name is Carol, and I want to thank you both for being here. I admire you. You're so full of integrity, and you always speak your thing. My thing is that I'm very blessed to go to a church that's a mixed-race church, and
give us a question. We got
okay, I'm sorry.
45
Well,
seconds.
the left has taken moral issues and turned them into political issues, which is why there's a lot of strife between, I think, the races. And how can we turn that back? Turn moral issues back into what they really are, instead of the political issues that the left has made them.
We can do exactly what we're doing. We can encourage those who are afraid to speak out that we're not going to leave you hanging. Sometimes we can go to their meetings and press conferences and stand with them and just say we agree.
And I think we're going to be here for a few minutes afterwards. So if you want to just come over to our table over there and ask us these questions and follow up on some of the things we talked about here, please do. It is a blessing. You are all a part of Restore the Dream. All right? You all should be missionaries of saving this republic and our civilization. That means because of your, most everyone out there is white, but not just, I see some brown and black faces. Because the majority of you that happen to be white are white and have white skin does not take away your responsibility to go into these communities and don't pander. Don't pander. Don't talk about, oh, it's an act of love when they come into the country. I won't go into it. We know who said that. All right. Don't pander. Come in like they were your own children.
And she's kissing Boehner on the front page of the newspaper. Sorry, no name.
This is our fight. This is your fight. It's our fight. We're in this together. And a lot of negative things said, let's end where we started. What we're fighting for is this dream. And as Lincoln said, the last best hope on earth. God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my sister, Dr. Alveda King, my brother,